Welcome to From the PressBox. I'm Lauren Fluker. Today's show will talk about Tigers' big win, a little NASCAR, and our NFL update. From the PressBox starts right now.
A few weeks ago, we talked about if we thought Tiger's play at the Honda Classic meant that the old Tiger was back, and it looks like he may be.
Well, Jamal, I do distinctly remember you making these comments.
He lost. I want to say it one more time. He lost. He didn't win.
Well, on Sunday, he snapped his winless streak of 26 PGA Tour events with a 13-under-par performance for the tournament. This was Tiger's 7th win at the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
That's one shy of the most by anybody in a single PGA Tour event since 1920, when Sam Snead had 8 wins at the Greater Greensboro Open.
Looks like the old Tiger is back.
You can say that again. Well, speaking of repeating, the Bulls are going to be making a repeat appearance in the playoffs.
They're the first team to clinch a playoff berth this season and the first team to reach 40 wins.
The impressive part is that they are 12-4 in the 16 games that last year's MVP, Derrick Rose, has not been able to dress.
And don't forget they brought in Richard Hamilton to start at shooting guard, but he has only played in 16 games this season because of several injuries.
This team is poised to make a deep playoff run and a championship push if they can make it past the Heat.
And that is a big if. Another big if is whether you can have a perfect bracket during March Madness. Out of almost 6.5 million brackets entered on ESPN, only a little over 25,000 had the Final Four correct, or 0.4%.
Yeah, we all know my bracket's just a little bit messed up.
Well, as long as my Kentucky Wildcats are in there, I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, as you said, Kentucky's made it to New Orleans, as well as Kansas, Ohio State, and Louisville.
When Kentucky plays Louisville, it'll be an interstate matchup and put Coach Rick Pitino against the school that he once coached.
That'll be a pretty interesting matchup.
Or a pretty interesting blowout.
And in the other matchup of Ohio State and Kansas, it'll be only the 9th time the teams will have met in school history, but the 2nd time this season. In the first matchup, the Jayhawks won, but one of Ohio State's best players, Jalech Sullinger, sat out that game.
Well, just like him, we're going to have to sit out for a minute as we go to a break. But when we return, we'll have D. Orlando Ledbetter in studio for an interview. Stay tuned.
So my uncle calls and he says he's dizzy and he's losing his balance. I'm like, Unc, you want me to take you to a doctor? He's like, no, I'm going to look up the symptoms. I said, your symptoms are you're dizzy and you're losing your balance. So he said, I can't get on the internet because my arm is numb. I said, well, use your good arm and dial 911. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love is showing symptoms of stroke, don't wait because it might be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain lost.
Welcome back. I'm here with D. Orlando Ledbetter. I want to thank you coming back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jamal. It's always a pleasure.
Last time we talked about the NFL Combine, and this time I just want to, give us an NFL update as they had a rather turbulent offseason so far. And one of the biggest storylines was Peyton Manning. Do you think he made a good choice in signing with the Denver Broncos?
Well, just from a football perspective, the San Francisco 49ers would have been the most Super Bowl-ready situation for him to go into. Arizona was involved. Ken Wisenhunt, an Atlanta, Georgia native who played at Georgia Tech. He's out there. So he's got to go back to his quarterbacks, Kevin Kolb and Jimmy Skelton, John Skelton, and determine, hey, we're going to proceed on with you guys. But just from a pure football perspective, the San Francisco 49ers would have probably been a better situation for Peyton.
Okay. You're speaking about the San Francisco 49ers, and when they pursued Peyton, they kind of went away from Alex Smith and allowed him to visit other teams before they eventually did re-sign him after Peyton signs with Denver. Do you think that pursuit of Peyton is going to actually affect his confidence heading into the season?
Well, he's been through so much there, Jamal, with all of the coordinators over the last 6 years, and finally had a great degree of success last year. I think it'll go off of his back, and he'll keep moving along with Coach Harbaugh out there.
All right, you talked about how important, coaches are with Jim Harbaugh and Alex Smith, and, that connection. Sean Payton got suspended for his role in the bounty situation down in New Orleans. Who do you think is going to end up being the interim head coach there this season? Do you think they're going to go outside of the organization, or is it going to be a promotion from within?
Right now, it looks like Bill Parcells is a leading candidate. Sean Payton spoke with him down at the owners' meeting, and that's his mentor and his friend. He'd like for him to come and babysit his team for him. However, that might run afoul of the league's Rooney rules, which requires that each team interviews a minority candidate. Now, what minority candidate is going to go in there and interview if they already know that they have this kind of arrangement with Bill Parcells? So we need to keep an eye on that situation and see if the Saints violate another rule while they're trying to address their head coaching situation.
Okay. Bringing in Bill Parcells would be huge down there. I think he could work wonders, and that would add to his legacy. And not as big a thing, but, you know, locally here, this is pretty big. The Atlanta Falcons, they haven't done too much this offseason. Do you think there's still time for them to make a splash? Are there any players or anything out there?
No, I don't think there's a splash left for them to make. They got to kind of hold their cards that they have right now, which are their draft picks. They've re-signed 8 of their key players from last year. Their big moves were already made before free agency started in the form of hiring Dirk Cutter as their offensive coordinator, Mike Nolan as a defensive coordinator, and Pat Hill as the offensive line coach. So what they're saying is, hey, our team's pretty good. We won 43 games over the last 4 years. We need some better schemes and better coaches, and that appears to be the direction that they're taking.
Okay. Now, what would be a talk about the NFL without a little Tebow? He's going to New York. Do you think he can beat out Sanchez for that starting job, or do you think it's just going to be a 1-2 thing?
Well, they're fashioning it as a wildcat 1-2 situation now. Tebow's saying he's coming to win the job, but if he doesn't throw the ball much better than he did last year, that's going to be impossible for him to do. However, we saw Sanchez implode last season down the stretch when they placed too much on his plate. So Tebow will certainly be ready there, poised, and game to step into the fold if Sanchez can't get it done in 2012.
All right, so we all know how important quarterbacks are to the team. They're your leader here. So we pretty much know where RG3 and Andrew Luck are going to go in the draft, the top 2 quarterbacks. What about other teams outside that aren't going to be able to get their hands on them that are looking for their quarterback of the future? Who can they look to?
Well, there's Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback down at Texas A&M, who had his pro day today. He had a foot injury and couldn't do much at the combine. But today, according to our good friend Shireen Williams at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, he completed 65 of 68 passes to the receiver. So he was very impressive, ran a 4.62 40 to show his athletic ability. So teams like Cleveland, Seattle, Miami, they were all down there to kind of kick the tires on him. Another kid to watch for later on is the Michigan State quarterback, Kirk Cousins. He had a great deal of success with them and Coach D'Antonio up there. And the Spartan quarterback is going to be available for somebody in the second round.
Okay. Do you think Tannehill might be able to sneak into the first?
Yes, he could sneak into the first, no question about it.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming in, and we're about to go to a break, but when we come back, we'll be with Tony Evans, our NASCAR analyst.
Lead paint poisoning affects over 1 million children today. If your home was built before 1978, your kids could be at risk. Log on to leadfreekids.org or call 800-424-LEAD.
Thanks for staying with From the Press Box. I'm Tony Evans with your NASCAR news. The Nationwide and Sprint Cup drivers headed west this past weekend for some high-speed racing at the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. The Nationwide Series drivers kicked things off Saturday with the Royal Purple 300. The race got off to a good start with the pole sitter and driver of the number 18 Toyota, Joey Logano, taking the lead going into turn 1. The race was all quiet until lap 57 when the first yellow flag waved thanks to a piece of debris on the backstretch. A few laps later, the number 10 GoDaddy Chevrolet of Danica Patrick would experience some issues and head towards the garage. With 5 laps to go and Joey Logano steadily pulling away from the field, Brad Keselowski was not too far behind in second. Logano would go on to win the Royal Purple 300, giving Joe Gibbs Racing its 8th straight win at the track. Elliott Sadler leads the nationwide point standings, followed by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Austin Dillon. Next up, the Auto Club 400 on Sunday. The Sprint Cup drivers hit the track with a heavy threat of rain. Through lap 39, the number 18 Interstate Battery Toyota of Kyle Busch well out in front, leading most of the caution-free race. By lap 88, Tony Stewart, the number 14 Office Depot Chevy, would be the new leader. But on lap 123, rain stops the race, and Stewart is named the winner. As of right now, Greg Biffle leads the point standings, followed by Kevin Harvick and Dale Jr. And some good news for crew chief Chad Knaus. He'll remain on top of the pit box after a successful appeal following infractions at Daytona in February. The Camping World Truck Series will fire back up this weekend when all three series heads to NASCAR's smallest track, Martinsville, Virginia. That's your NASCAR news. I'm Tony Evans from the Press Box returns after this.
Lafayette, what are you doing?
I'm not gonna lie, definitely not easy.
Hey, whoa.
Just gotta get through the day.
How do you stop it?
Being used to doing something with a cigarette makes it hard doing it without one. If I can relearn to get through my workday without cigarettes, I can relearn anything without cigarettes.
Relearn life without cigarettes. Free at becomeanex.org. A new way to think about quitting.
Welcome back. It's time for Hurry Up Offense.
Call it what you want. Let's just get started. The first question, Troy Aikman said Romo's already a better quarterback than he was. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree. For most people, the argument is that Romo is good and he has potential, but at this juncture of his career, he doesn't need potential. He needs postseason action. So let's get something straight. When it's all said and done, the only thing that will surpass Aikman are Romo's stats, and that's only because Aikman retired prematurely. It didn't take Aikman long to get those boys to the Super Bowl. Romo has still not even seen an NFC championship. So it goes without question. Is he a better quarterback? No.
Oh, I'm going the complete opposite direction. Romo's a great quarterback. Look at the 2006 Colts and the 2009 Saints. Both teams were undefeated when they faced Romo, and what did he do? He picked them apart and beat them, handing them their first loss. Romo's 10 of 18 in close fourth quarter matchups, and that's, right in there with Troy Aikman at 35 and 37%. Look at it. He has a higher touchdown percentage, a higher quarterback rating, and Aikman only started for 12 seasons, and Romo's at 6 seasons, and they're almost equal stats in half the time, which is crazy. So I'm just saying, Romo's pretty good.
He is good, and I'm a Cowboys fan, but I just think that statement was ego-stimulating to possibly getting him to deliver next season.
Maybe.
Next question. In women's softball, Alabama is 30-1, and Louisiana Lafayette is also 30-1. If they played, who would win?
The Raging Cajuns had a 21-point victory over Mississippi Valley State this season.
Yes, they did.
21 points. Look at this. They can hit. Chrissy Orgeron and Narissa Myers are the leaders of this team, and they lead in almost every statistical category. And the Tide, they're a really good defensive team, but the Raging Cajuns are a better offensive team, being how they drove in 255 runs this season. And look at the proof that they can beat them. Last season when they played, ULL won.
Okay, and I just need you to consider this. A few weeks ago, I predicted Alabama to go all the way, and I've just got to stick to my guns. And the explanation is simple. They have speed and they have power. Their pitchers have an earned run average of 1.82. As a team, they're batting .345, and they've hit 50 home runs. Louisiana Lafayette has 8 less than them. Their hits. So with that, roll Tide all the way.
Just because you picked the Tide then, that just means you were wrong then, and you're wrong now.
Oh!
We know Brittany Griner has dominated the women's game, but how would she fare with the men?
I've said this time and time before, the girl can play with men. Griner is a premier defender. Her wingspan is 7 feet 3.5 inches. That's farther than LeBron's. Simply put, she's a different breed of female player, so she can, of course, hang with the men. During her time at Baylor, she scored double figures, 58 out of the 59 games she played with them. So it's safe to say she's never really had a bad game with women. So how can she fare with men? She can beast. She's a beast. She can do it. I say she can do it.
Yeah, she has a longer wingspan than LeBron. You're right. But she'd play power forward. He plays small forward. I'm just going to say here, women can do anything men can do. But she can't hang in the trenches with, these big guys.
You don't believe in her?
Big Baby's a smaller power forward, and he's 6'9", an inch taller than her, and 289 pounds, almost twice her weight. This is one of the littler guys. And look, her shot blocking ability is one of her best assets. But with guys that are bigger and can jump higher, that's going to almost negate that completely. She would get eaten alive and pushed to the three-point line if she tried to back anyone down.
Well, whoever she played, she would definitely be a challenge, and I'm sure you would agree to that.
Yeah, she could sit on the bench.
Okay, and has 14-time major champion Tiger Woods positioned himself to be a favorite at the Masters?
Maybe in Vegas where he has 4-1 odds to win because of Bay Hill, but that wasn't the Masters. I mean, you're going to be looking at guys like Rory McIlroy and Luke Donald who are just hungrier than him. Rory McIlroy is going into that matchup, and he's going to be hungry to prove to the world that he is the best young golfer in the game, which I agree with him, he is. In Tiger's prime, you know, the bet was always, do you take Tiger or do you take the field? But the field's now closed that gap, and at this point in Tiger's career, I just don't think that he can string together consecutive victories like that.
And I've got to disagree with you. I think, you know, just forget the positioning. He's already a favorite. Tiger has so many supporters, and that win at the Arnold Palmer Classic really solidified that. He has redeemed himself for those 923 days it took him to get to a win. So I think that he's going to go there and he's going to do well. The old Tiger is back, as we mentioned.
So one win every 925 days is just all good?
If you're Tiger Woods, it is.
Well, we've reached the end of another show.
Remember to tune in next week and tweet us at FTP_tweets.
Or you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/FromThePressBox.
And like us on Facebook.
And we've added a new feature to the show, A Moment in Sports History. On March 29, 1998, Tennessee won the National Women's Basketball Championship against Louisiana Tech. They set an NCAA record of 39-0. That's your moment in sports history. And again, she's Lauren Fluker.
He's Jamal Williams.
And this is
From the Press Box.